Welcome back. The past year and a half has been a time of great strain in relations between law enforcement agencies and the jurisdictions they police. Can that situation be eased? Well, NBC7's Wendy Fry and guests are here to talk answers. Wendy.
Thanks, Gene. With me to discuss this issue, we have Sheppard, founder of Embrace, and Brian Marvel, the head of the San Diego Police Officers Association. Thank you guys both so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about what the issue is here. The relations in San Diego, do you feel like they've been strained between the police and the community, Brian?
Yeah, I think, overall, I think the national dialogue on law enforcement, there is a little bit of strain. I think what's unique about San Diego is because we were so focused on community-oriented policing in the late 90s, early 2000s, and we continue to do that today. You don't see quite as much as you do in other cities. And I think, partnering up with Sean, who's going to talk a little bit more about the program, what we want to get involved in, I think is only going to enhance the community relations that we currently have with the department.
Okay, Sean, let's talk about, you have some ideas maybe for addressing this issue in a program you were proposing?
I do, and I just want to make it clear that the model that we've built has been created with input from Brian and the Police Officers Association and the police chief. I feel like the problem lies in the fact that there's a lack of exposure between and among various demographic groups. Police officers are members of the community first. They were members of the community before they became police officers. And the fact that nationwide we don't spend time together as people, and I mean strictly from different demographic groups, we don't work together, we don't play together, that has a tremendous effect on how police are able to do their jobs and how community members react to that policing. Okay. And so we are in the process of creating a model called Game Changers that creates that space for members of the community and law enforcement to spend time getting to know one another, hearing each other out, learning more about various cultures, and then spending social time together, because it's important that members of the community and members of law enforcement see each other as people, as human beings.
So Brian, this is kind of going back to that basic premise of community policing in a way. What's new with this?
Well, I think what's new is you're going to take a small group of officers and you're going to take a small group of people that are in the community. They're going to come together. They're going to have an opportunity to have open dialogue. Let's have open, honest dialogue about the issues between policing and the community. And then after we're done having that conversation, we're just going to go spend some time at, say, a sporting event, or we're going to go see a play or something like that, where we're going to spend that time together outside of having that discussion to maybe build some relationships where those officers now will want to talk to them more often or seek their input on, and advice on issues.
Right, so sort of addressing the task kind of first and then relationship too at the same time, so
Absolutely.
That you guys can build a better relationship with the community. How is this going to be funded?
Well, we're working on that. Private funding, foundations, there should be federal funding involved, but to Brian's point, what we're really trying to do is create the space for a normal relationship to take place. One of the reasons why Brian and I get along is because we've talked about issues and we also spend social time together. It really does reflect how people have relationships in normal everyday life. And to create that space for law enforcement and members of the community is vital.
And oh, go ahead. You had something.
And I think, I think what it does is it personalizes the officer to the community, and the community is personalized to the officer. And I think by having that type of dialogue and conversation will only enhance the community-oriented policing that's currently being done.
Okay. Let's talk about a little bit. So you guys have a number of other programs kind of aimed at this. I know we did the Inside SDPD, which
Absolutely.
was really eye-opening.
Yes.
What other community policing is going on too?
We have the Star Pal, and that's more geared towards athletics and getting kids involved in like after-school activities that don't lead to doing other type of activities. It's a very good outlet that's usually staffed by police officers. So these young kids who are growing up, going through high school, they're being in contact with these officers. So when they see an officer show up, it's not always like, oh, hey, I'm in trouble. And it's like, no, you know what? He's here. He's gonna teach me some sports. Or we're gonna get together and we're gonna do some athletics, or we're gonna talk about it. There's some great officers working in Style Park that are mentoring these younger children to better themselves for the community, for the nation, and also for the city.
Sean, we had talked about this a little bit beforehand, but do you think, I mean, so this is targeted for a very specific group of people. I mean, are there some people that this program might just not reach because their mind isn't kind of open to maybe bridging this gap?
Well, you can't get through to everybody, but the fact that we are making the steps to provide the opportunity and the space for that to happen is important. I can't stress enough how pleasant an experience this has been to build this model with Brian and get input from police officers, as well as the issues that exist within the community. As I shared with Brian, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement didn't just come from nowhere. There are some very legitimate concerns within that movement, but I think that there's an opportunity to get those concerns on the table and also allow them to learn what it's like to be a police officer, because it's not an easy job by any stretch of the imagination, and there needs to be two-way dialogue, and that's what this is creating, is two-way dialogue.
So where are we in the process? When are we going to see this kind of come to fruition? I know it's got a lot of backing from a lot of politicians, so where do we go next?
I think ultimately, like we talked about, it's really going to come down to the funding, because we need funding that will get the event started, but we want enough funding to be able to continue the program, because we don't want this to be like, oh, you know, here we just did it once and it turned out great, and then that's the last you see of it, because then what have we really done? What we've done is we've created expectations in the community and the department, and then they just disappear, and I don't think that helps anybody. So what we're really looking for is funding on this.
Okay, and just really quickly, we're on the clock. How can people find out more if they want to look it up online? Embrace.org? Or?
Yeah, they can go to embrace1.org and click on the contacts, and we'll get back to you.
All right, Sean Sheppard from Embrace and Brian Marva from the SDPOA, thanks so much for joining us. Gene, we're going to go ahead and send it back to you.
Great discussion. And in the home stretch of Politically Speaking, has government red tape in the U.S. incentivized developers to make a run for the border? We'll be back.